The dynasty offseason is in full swing for fantasy football. There are managers that are really not sleeping. People are slinging trades all around, and we're going to analyze the most traded players right now in dynasty fantasy football right here on Player Profiler. So, before we get into it, I am doing another show with another guest. When we first started this series, I said, I'm not too sure if I'm going to bring guests on, but I kind of like the banter back and forth, gives you guys a little bit of perspective, and you don't got to hear me tell you everything. At least someone gives me a little bit of pushback. So, without further ado, I am bringing on my co-host, Chev. You know him, you love him. He's here at Player Profiler, pumping out tons of content. You can find him on Twitter at ChevGPT. Chev, what's going on, man?
Oh man, I just knocked over one of my my ring lights, so that's super cool. But man, I'm doing fantastic, brother. I'm glad to be here. It's always fun when we get to do these. So yeah, I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. It's honestly, we talk about in-season content, and the off season is the most fun time of the year. Of course we love football. We die for football. When football's gone, we're sitting here saying, man, I wish we had football back. Right. It's kind of like preseason. Like crappy football is still football. We still get it. We love it. That like, we don't care what it is, where it's coming from. Like at the end of the day, we're getting football, which is the most important thing. But there's something about the off season that just makes things exciting, right? Your Titans hire a new coach in Robert Saleh, newfound hope for an organization, newfound hope for a team, right? You are a dynasty manager. You have all these picks that you traded and tore down your roster. And so you're consuming as much content as possible about this rookie class. And we're bringing in content for you on this rookie class. So it's a fun time of the year. It brings a lot of hope. It brings a lot of excitement. It keeps things fresh. And the NFL truly never sleeps. And so dynasty managers never really sleep either, right? They're making trades constantly, and this is a good time of the year to make trades. Hopefully you're in a league where guys aren't sleeping at the wheel and they're not looking at their app because they had a crappy season and they don't want to talk about or think about fantasy football right now. Hopefully you're in a more active league, and there is a lot of activity going on. And so we're going to talk today about a lot of that activity that we're seeing go on, in the fantasy streets. And the first player we're going to talk about today is going to be Woody Marks, Chev. And Woody Marks is a player that honestly, it could not be more perfect to talk about Woody Marks, because I know we have differences on this player and how we see him for dynasty purposes, for fantasy purposes, and just his actual abilities as a running back in the NFL. And Woody Marks, 5'10", coming out of USC. This Texans team trades a bunch of picks to go up and get him. Now, he was only a 4th-round pick, so we're not sitting here saying he got day 2 capital, right? It wasn't an Isaac Tesla situation where the Lions traded up in day 2 and gave up day 2 capital in future years. This is a guy in Woody Marks, though, that they invested in out of USC. He's 25 years old, and he is one of the more traded players right now in fantasy football, Chev. When we look at him, he's been traded, the 3rd most in Dynasty right now. And before we go into all of that, I do want to preface the show. I got a little ahead of myself. I'm excited to be here tonight. But there are a lot of players in the top 10 that we're going to talk about 5 today. But we've already covered some of the players that are in the top 10. So we're going to skip over those players. And if there's certain players that I'm going to share right now to you that you want to hear about, you can go to our previous episodes and go ahead and listen to them. Now, number 1 is Ladd McConkey. We talked about him last week. BTJ, we talked about 2 weeks ago. He's still number 2. Woody Marks is number 3 right now. Marvin Harrison's number 4. We talked about him 2 weeks ago. Tyler Shuck is number 5. We talked about him last week. Breece Hall is number 6. We're going to talk about Breece Hall today. Luther Burden's number 7. We talked about him last week. Parker Washington is number 8. We're going to talk about him today. Garrett Wilson, number 9. We're going to talk about him today. And Kyle Monangai at number 10. We're going to talk about him today as well. So you got Woody Marks, Breece Hall, Parker Washington, Garrett Wilson, Kyle Monangai. Those are the 5 guys on deck that that we're going to talk about today. And we'll take mailbag questions as we go along. We do it on the other shows. We'll continue to do so in between players, in between segments. So going back to Woody Marks, this is a guy right now, startup ADP, Chev has him at running back 27. He's valued between the 112 and the 201 in startup ADP at this very moment, right? Running back 27, the third most traded player right now in fantasy dynasty football. And he's the number one traded running back right now. 25 years old, fourth round pick, averaged 9.4 fantasy points per game this year, which was good enough for third. And he was really in the feature role in this offense. It's not really saying much, though. What are your thoughts on Woody Marks? Joe Mixon doesn't come back, gets injured. He's still got another year on his deal. Nick Chubb comes in on a cheap deal. I don't think we expect him back. Do you think they're bringing competition in? Is Joe Mixon going to be here? What are your thoughts around Woody Marks and the competition in this room? Let's start there.
Certainly. I feel like they're going to bring someone in. They're going to bring someone in to compete with Woody Marks. I don't think that this is his backfield. We were honestly going into the season, we're like, hey, we can get him in a pass catching role, and that's going to be the thing that's most beneficial for him. Now, it turns out that he could tote the tater a little bit better than I gave him credit for. And I mean, for what he was costing you in rookie drafts last year, this was an unequivocal smash. Like, you could get him in the back end of the third or the fourth round a lot of times. Like, I was not a huge fan. My co-host Casey, over at the FFD, he was big Woody Marks. I was Brashard Smith. He gets the early gratification in, Woody Marks hitting, so to speak. But now we enter into an offseason where we are back to what his draft capital was, what he put on film, and the fact that we very easily could see them go out and spend money in free agency. And then now we're in a situation where we can't feel great about him anymore. So if you have him and you could cash out, like, let me ask you this, Pete, would you cash out for any second right now?
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't cash out for anything past like the 2.6 and beyond.
Well,
I'd probably
yeah.
hold him there because I think he's got some value. But if you're offering me 2.6 and above, I would take it at this point. And you might be able to get something thrown in, maybe a fourth on top, even if it's in 2027. You might be able to get something added on top as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would. So if I were trying to get out of the business, which I can't blame anyone that honestly wants to get out of the business at this point, like, I feel like cashing out for a second when you paid a late third or a fourth, and you just don't. Again, some of the efficiency metrics were not the best, and he's already 25 years. He's going to be 25 years old when the season starts, and this we don't know what's going to happen with the offensive line. We don't have any manner of means to feel great about, CJ Stroud or where the offense is headed. Nick Caley the offensive coordinator, didn't present himself very well, in his first year as a play caller. So there's more questions than answers with the Texans. So I would have to be firmly in the sell camp right now. If you can cash out for plus value, don't just sell them for anything, because we could be wrong. But I mean, the second is, that second you could turn into something a little bit more valuable. It hasn't reached the crescendo of its value yet, which will hit like once we have draft capital for the 2026 class. So you can get that, and that's going to make you feel, I feel like that's going to be a good placeholder or, a sell point value wise for Woody Marks.
Woody Marks, this reminds me of a Tyrone Tracy situation a little bit in some similar parallels. Tyrone Tracy is a guy that when you got him, it was like you found free money in your pocket.
Yep.
Right. You drafted him really, really late. He ended up coming through. Now, don't get me wrong, Woody Marks didn't really come through like Tracy did his rookie year. Tracy had some pop games. Woody Marks really didn't. Woody Marks is a guy that, I mean, if he made it, if you were in the second half and you didn't get a report on your phone that Woody Marks has left the game early, you felt pretty good about it. You're like, okay, all right, like we're feeling pretty good. Like I mean, it's just
every week.
he just every week, man, and he even did it last week. In same thing, and so Joe Mixon, looking at his contract, I'm looking at it right now. They have a potential out, where it would only cost the team $2 million in dead cap if they were to move on from him after this season. He's a $10 million cap hit next year. I don't see them keeping him at $10 million unless he does some sort of restructure. So I think it's a good chance Joe Mixon is gone. If he's here, that's not good news for Woody Marks either. There's somebody else is coming in. Either Joe Mixon staying on a restructure or they're going to draft somebody. I truly firmly believe that. So that's a little bit of the situation there. And then when we talk about some of the guys and Cameron, we're gonna get to your question in a second, Cameron. But when you talk about some of the players that are being drafted behind Woody Marks, Tyler Algier, I would take Tyler Algier for Woody Marks if I could. I would do it straight up. They're very similar in age. Tyler Algier has proven that he can carry a strong workload, and I think he's going to get a solid contract in free agency this year. So Tyler Algier, to me, I would take him, and he's going behind him. Blake Corum, I would take Blake Corum as well. Not because I think he's taking Kyron's job, but that is a premium handcuff. And he's not even a complete handcuff now because McVay it's almost like every other series for a while we saw. Now, Kyron did get the extension, but Corum has earned himself more time, and we don't normally see McVay do that with other running backs. It's normally one guy. And even if Kyron went down, I don't even know if Corum would be in a timeshare. McVay might solely go back to just Corum like we saw him with Kyron for the majority of his, starter career. So I would take Blake Corum. Kenneth Gainwell, we're kind of getting close there. Gainwell's a little higher in age, but they're kind of similar. He just provides more explosiveness to me. But he might get a deal somewhere else. Gainwell, I would have to get like a third back with Gainwell to entertain that. Bhayshul Tuten, I couldn't believe that Tuten's behind him. Even if Travis Etienne comes back, I think Bhayshul Tuten, this offense, similar to Sean Payton's offense, two running backs can eat in this offense. And we're going to see Tuten continue to get more and more touches. And then you got Caleb Johnson, the absolute wild card. And there is a world where when we talk about would you take a late second for Woody Marks, if you could tell me that I could get Caleb Johnson and the 212 for Woody Marks, I would roll those dice. I really would. So those are kind of the players that are going behind him that I like. Woody just not explosive this year, 40th in explosive rating. This is a team that wants to run the football too. 13th in rush attempts this year, and they were 22nd in rush yards per game. This is a guy in D'Amico Ryans who likes to play tough defense, Chev, and he likes to control the football. And I got news for you. The way Stroud looked, now, I think Stroud is actually possibly a sneaky buy at the moment. I wouldn't go out there and spend a ton on him, but I do think we've gotten two crazy extremes with him. Rookie year was crazy, and now we're out here saying that the guy shouldn't even get his fifth-year option picked up, which I think is silly and foolish to say in and of itself. But, they want to control the football, and so the running game is going to be important. So Woody Marks for me is a sell. That's where my stance is there. Is he a sell for you? I mean, we talked about where his price is between the 112 and the 201. I thought that was crazy. I think you can, in a lot of leagues, probably get somewhere around the 203 for him, 204. 201 sounds pretty rich. And if anybody's giving that to you, even the 112, I would hammer that immediately. I just don't know how likely that is that you're getting that.
Yeah, that's a struggle for me because if I would break my thumb smashing accept on a trade for the 112 or the 201 for Woody Marks, just based on literally everything that we just talked about. Like he's mispriced because he's priced like a bell cow. He's priced like he's a bell cow, but the situation is so tenuous. Again, this is going to be very similar because we don't have any news about Joe Mixon. He's making $10 million. You alluded to that already. he's going to get the Tyjae Spears bump that Tyjae Spears got. If you remember that a couple years ago when the Titans released Derrick Henry, and it was like, oh, it's Tyjae's backfield now, and people were sending first for Tyjae Spears, not considering that they're going to bring someone else in. He's 195 pounds. Woody Marks comes in at 208 or whatever, but he doesn't run with the kind of pop or violence to where you're like, hey man, this is a guy we're going to hand the ball to 275 times and throw to another 60 times. I don't see that for him. So that's kind of the, if at the 112 or 201, and I don't want to, belabor this point any longer, but he's an auto sell for me. It's not even close. And we talked about Bhayshul Tuten versus Woody Marks, and I said the exact same thing. Like, I was like, hey, well, if he's going to be the lead dog, or if you could count on him to get the majority of passing game work, which is an issue in and of itself because CJ Stroud doesn't really check the ball down to running backs as much as we would like, then I would, then I could have him. But in looking into Bhayshul Tuten a little bit more, because that was the comparison that you and I had in the, in the group chat, like, he's got the better offensive line. He's got the better play caller. He's got the better. So I will apologize to you on air. I was wrong about Bhayshul Tuten. No. It's wrong. It's not wrong, but I'm changing my opinion. And so I have to apologize. Like, because I felt pretty good about Woody Marks. And then I was like, we've seen this movie a number of times, and it rarely works out in the way we want it to for a fourth round rookie that didn't display the type of juice that makes you want to give the full workload to him.
Yeah, I mean, and I brought it up, and then we're going to get to Cameron's question. I compared it to Tyrone Tracy, right? I was concerned about Tyrone Tracy and this team, bringing somebody else in with, the idea of a possibility that they could bring in a new coaching staff as well. Now they do bring in a new coaching staff, right? That could change things. But last year, Tyrone Tracy, it was a similar thing where you found money in your pocket, but the difference was Tracy provided pop. He provided some juice, right? Yes. There was, but you knew, hey, is a team that invested in a late round pick that gave them some pop? Like, that's not an every down back, probably not. But if you believe in the offense, then you're good. I don't know how much I believe in this offense where two running backs are going to eat either.
Correct.
Right. And so, and he doesn't have that ability where he can do a lot with a little. That's not the vibe I get from him either. So let's move over to Cameron Myers' question here in a $20 super chat. So we really do appreciate that, Cameron. Thank you so much, man. Cameron said, I'm a rebuilding team. I have the first and third in this year's draft. I have 6 first rounders in 2027. I have Neighbors, JSN, Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall. Should I ship Marv for 2027 first, or should I stick with the ship? First of all, crazy. I mean, unless this is this is a league where you've been rolling for a while with, and maybe you've been building up that capital, because I mean that's an insane war chest for 2027, which should projects to be a really solid class. So kudos to you on that. I mean, you have the 101 this year and the 103. So you're in a good spot there. I'm not in love with Marvin Harrison Jr., but what I would say is this: we are not NFL GMs, and even NFL GMs make mistakes. I would be trying to move off some picks for players. That's my philosophy. I know there's a lot of people out there that'll, have like every first round pick and they've done a complete teardown, and that's great. But to me, there is room for variance and there is room for error. And so if I can move a pick for a young proven player, I'm going to do that, right? Especially if I have this many picks. Now, in this situation with Marv, you get another 2027 first. And don't get me wrong, I am not as high on Marv, but in this situation, you have Neighbors, you have JSN, you have all these picks. I'd keep Marv here. I don't think I would roll the dice, and unless you're telling me it's going to be a really high 2027 first, and then but then I would be looking to move a first for maybe a tier down player. Like you need something, right? And they do have a great foundation with Neighbors and JSN. Worthy, like I would be trying to move Worthy or Ricky Pearsall before I try to move Marv, but you're probably not getting maybe as high of a return as you would for Marv. So I would stand pat, to be honest, especially given your situation, how much picks you got, and the players that you have. What are your thoughts, Chev?
Dude, I struggle with this question because, you know, we could, with that many picks and you require another 2027 first, like you're increasing. Has Marv been a disappointment for the vast majority of his career? Sure. But you're increasing the risk by re-rolling and then feeling like, "Hey, I've got a hit on all 6 of these." I wouldn't be trying to make 6 picks in the first unless like I knew, hey, I'm gonna get tier 1 prospect Jeremiah Smith, tier 1 prospect Isaac Brown, tier 1 prospect Arch Manning, tier 1, like unless you're just rattling them off and you're super comfortable with the class, like I would not be trying to make all 6 of these selections, me personally. So I would be trying to get young ascending players that had a dip in value that you could 2x your return on. So I would not want to, it'd be really tempting for me to sell Marv for like the 27. The latest I would go would be like the 27 104. Because if you think about what Marv was as a prospect, like he's still that. He just hasn't had the environment to me to really like flourish. Now, could he have done what Michael Wilson was doing potentially? Probably, maybe, but it didn't happen that way. And he's hurt now. So there's so many different questions, but even still, I can't go past the 10. I can't go past the 105 for Marv. And even then that would make me uncomfortable. And I'm fairly comfortable with what I think the 27 class is going to look like.
Sure.
But we don't know. We have no idea right now. Like we thought the 26 quarterback class was going to be stronger than the 25 quarterback class, and it's worse. So like again, things change so rapidly. So I would try to I would be trying to cash some of those out, still have 4 so that you have ultimate control over the round. I'd be at most trying to make like 4 selections, but that's just me personally.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. And Jerry came in and pretty much echoed what we said. Jerry, what's going on, man? Jerry will be on the show in a couple of weeks. You're in our thoughts, buddy. We appreciate you popping in, man. Thank you for supporting, brother.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah. But and Cameron, obviously, we really do appreciate the super chat. Biggie, we will get to your question, but we got to move on to the next segment. So stick around and we'll get to you next. But the next player we're going to talk about here is going to be Breece Hall. And he's the guy that's on the thumbnail. This is a guy that's being traded 210 times in the last week in Dynasty Fantasy Football, 7th most traded in Dynasty, and second most among running backs. I said 7th, I think, twice there. Yeah. But this is I had to look at it again because I was pretty surprised. Breece Hall is 24 years old still. 24. It feels like this guy's been in the league for a really long time, and he's an impending free agent right now. It's a really sticky situation with Breece Hall because if you go out and buy him, you're probably buying him assuming he's going to go somewhere else and not be with the New York Jets next year, right? I have to imagine it's going through a lot of people's heads right now. It's a free agent. The New York Jets, they got all the money in the world to spend on running back, okay? They're the 3rd highest cap right now. Crazy enough, they have $75 million in dead cap, but somehow they're the 3rd in cap space, which is absolutely insane. I don't even know how that's possible. But it just goes to show you, well, thinking about it, Sauce move, Williams move, like those moves.
They're on second contracts too, yeah.
Yeah, and there was some dead money there from moving those guys probably.
Yes.
But this is a guy in Aaron Glenn who's fighting for his job this year, right? I mean, they don't have a lot of talent on this roster. They're not drafting a quarterback, I don't think. I mean, I hope Ty Simpson doesn't go that high. Maybe they pull a New York Giants and trade back into the back end of the class to get a 5th-year option on a guy like they did with Jackson Dart. Maybe they fall in love with a guy in the class that they think they can get late, maybe like a Nussmeier. But realistically, It's Justin Fields, and they're probably going to bring in a free agent, but they can't even spend big money, I don't think, on a free agent because they're paying Fields. But then again, they have the third most cap space next year. So it's a really, really weird situation. I don't think Aaron Glenn's going to be comfortable and Muji are going to be comfortable being like, yeah, we shouldn't spend money on this running back, and we shouldn't go out and get a quarterback in free agency because the class is going to be better next year, and we spent money on Fields, and we're not going to be competing. So why spend money on a running back? Like, they are so deficient in talent in general. I think Breece Hall is probably coming back, and that really sucks. They could always franchise tag him. Who else are they tagging on this team?
I mean, oh, man, that would make me a level of sad that I hadn't even. I had written Breece off as, hey, we're just gonna let he's done right by us as an organization. He's shown up. He's been the guy. He had a career high in rushing yards. Let's go let him get his money. It didn't occur to me that they might be, I just completely tuned out the fact that they're the most inept franchise in all of football. So yeah, 1000%. Yeah, they could tag him and just keep him in hell again, but maybe it could be a little bit better if they solve the quarterback thing. If they pay Malik Willis a bunch of money, because I mean, Justin Fields was just 2 for 40 with, I believe, 30 guaranteed. That's chump change for a quarterback. I mean, so they could go and do the Malik Willis thing. They could there's a couple options that they could exercise, but I just don't. I had my heart and my mind set on Breece Hall being a free agent this year. So it's going to be really hard for me to reset and be like, damn, he's back with the Jets again. Because I've been aggressively buying Breece Hall for the last 2 years. So
Sure.
He's a buy for me because of the fact that, one, he's going to be 25 on a second contract. He is one of the, I believe personally, and it might be an unpopular opinion because the results haven't lined up with that. But I mean, I said the same thing about Saquon Barkley. He's that echelon of talent. He's not Saquon Barkley. There are very few who are, but this is the type of running back that can change the math of what you think about from a fantasy perspective and go from what he averaged 13 points a game this year, which was a career low. And he could very easily be a guy that averages 5 yards a carry, gets another 240 carries, then another 70 or 80 targets and catches 60 passes. And, he's back up around 17 or 18 points a game. And you're getting him for way less than what you would like. I would not send the 101. Like, I wouldn't send the 101. I don't think you have to pay multiple first to get him. Like, but that's how I would value him in order to, if I was going to try to sell him, because I think he's a game changer type of talent. So I hope that answers the question. I'm really bullish on Breece Hall still. And it makes me really sad that you said that you think he's going back to the Jets. That just ruins all of my plans.
Well, I'm kind of with you in that he's kind of a buy for me right now. Recent trade on Dynasty Daddy, I'm pulling it up right now. Recent trade, Marvin Harrison Jr. for Breece Hall. I would trade Marv for Breece very comfortably.
Yes.
BTJ for Breece in a third in a vacuum, rebuild or not. Breece is 24. I mean, you could still be in a rebuild and have him, in my opinion, depending on it, unless you really think you're 3 years out. Like, if you're really, really bad, then sure.
Right. Like your RB1 is like Kenneth Gainwell or something like that. Like,
yeah. And honestly, you don't even really need the third for me to probably do this here as well. But the third is just nice to have. And then let's just look at Breece's year. I mean, this is his first season with 1,000 yards. He played 16 games, 17 games. Like, Breece has kind of had this stigma a little bit of like, he gets hurt a lot. 2024, he had the knee. He was playing through it. He slowed down a lot. He wasn't himself. Obviously, in 2022, he lost pretty much almost the entire season as a rookie, but we saw great numbers from him. And the one thing that's encouraging to me is you look at the receptions here, 57, 76, and he had a drop-off in the receptions area. And that's a big reason why his production dipped. I mean, you factor in he lost 20 receptions. That's pretty much a point. And if you let's just say the yards, let's just say it's about I don't know, close to 10 yards. We're talking about maybe 7 yards a game that he's losing there. You're talking about almost 2 points. He's almost right back there to 15. And the reason it's encouraging to me is because the opportunity share is at 5. Now, Braylon Allen did get hurt and he didn't come back, but he ran the 9th most routes this year. He was still involved, 6th in route participation for his team. So it's the same staff. It's the same offensive coordinator. They're all returning. It's just a matter of the quarterback. And look, he didn't get the checkdowns that we thought he was going to get. And that's unfortunate. But I think he'll be more involved in the passing game going forward, even if he stays with the Jets. Now, let's talk about the players around him, and then we're going to move on to the next segment here. Players that he is behind, which I thought was insane. He's behind Christian McCaffrey right now in startup ADP, which I thought was nuts. I love McCaffrey. Was drafting him a lot this year. Was very high on him. But, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, I do not expect that same workload next year, and I do have concerns about him next year. He's behind James Cook. That's fair. I'm probably okay with that. I think him and James Cook are pretty close, and I got to give James Cook his flowers. He's with Josh Allen. He's with a good offense. There's going to be some changes there, but they might even get an offensive-minded head coach, which could even be more to James Cook's benefit. Jonathan Taylor, I would probably say I'd rather Breece Hall just because of the youth there. And there's still quarterback concerns there as well with Jonathan Taylor. And, you know, he had a full healthy season, but he's had issues staying healthy, and there's still quarterback concerns. And then there's TreVeyon Henderson. And I want to talk about TreVeyon Henderson a little bit here, Chev, because TreVeyon Henderson worries me a little bit with how high he's being valued. And I love TreVeyon Henderson. This was I believe my RB2, RB3 coming into last year's class before the draft. And I loved him. I mean, I had him as a guy that I thought should have been right behind Hampton. I had him ahead of Travis Hunter in my rookie rankings once the landing spots happened. But TreVeyon Henderson, Stevenson, doesn't feel like he's going away. Henderson still has some room to grow, right? I mean, he wasn't as efficient as Stevenson, but I don't think Stevenson's just leaving next year. And Henderson feels like a long-term play, but Breece Hall still feels like a long-term play too, and we've seen him do it for a full season, and we've seen him handle a full workload, and he has explosiveness. Now, maybe not, as twitchy and explosive as Henderson, but enough to break off big plays and have high ceilings just like Henderson. So where are you at? Breece Hall, Henderson, do you have a preference on which guy? I feel like most people might just say Henderson because it's the shiny new toy, and Breece is in a crappy situation, but I don't think it's that far off to say you might prefer Breece Hall.
Well, we got to get some more clarity of the situation with Breece Hall. That's the issue. Player for player, I think, like I said, Breece Hall is one of the most unique talents. TreVeyon is also one of those types of talents. The issue here is that Ramondre has a $9 million dead cap hit for 2026. They can move on for $3 million in 2027. So that tells me, like, if they make the Super Bowl this year, they make the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, they're just going to run it back. They don't have to do anything. They've already got him on the second contract, so he's not going anywhere. You just kind of hope that he takes a step forward, kind of like Gibbs did with David Montgomery, to where it's like, hey, we just have to get this guy the ball as much as humanly possible. Now, if Breece goes out in free agency and, like, say he's the back that the Texans bring in, and they're like, hey, we're going to run it, we're going to throw it to you, we're going to make you our hammer, and we're going to, and you're going to end up with 330 touches. Yeah, I like that number, because I'm like, all right, that's, 275, 280 carries, 60 receptions. That's bona fide RB1 business. And I think with Breece Hall, we just need explosive plays. We need him to generate explosive plays. You saw it, I believe, against the Ravens. He had a 57-yard touchdown run towards the end of the season, or it might have been the Patriots. I can't remember, but you see the potential. And I mean, this is not a knock on TreVeyon at all, but he's 15 pounds heavier than TreVeyon, and he's faster, if you can believe that. So I personally would go and buy Breece because he's cheaper. If there's a trade where I can get into the TreVeyon business involving Breece, I could do that. But Breece is just going to be so much cheaper because of the things you alluded to. He's a shiny new toy. He's in a better offense. We have more clarity of situation. all of that leads to uncertainty, creates great buying markets for great players. I do believe Breece is a great player. So I would firmly be on the side of trying to acquire Breece Hall over, Travion Henderson. I think that the running back order there, I feel like that's right, just because of, if you're, cascading trade value, Breece Hall is going to be at the end of that, going to be at the bottom of that list.
Yeah. Well, let's compare both guys and then we'll move on here. Hall 217, you got Henderson at 202. Hall's 24.6, Henderson's 23.2. So, I mean, you're talking about a year off difference. Now, obviously, there's more tread on Breece's tires. He's had some injuries. Draft pick wise, pretty similar. Fourth pick in the second round for Breece Hall, sixth pick in the second round for Trevion Henderson. College dominated rating 40.6% for Breece Hall, 20.8% for Trevion Henderson. Now, Henderson had some great competition next to him. We know that. Okay.
Yes.
So that's important to factor in. He also played at a better school at the time. I mean, that's just a fact. Target share 9.9% in college. College target share for Henderson 7.5. Again, competing, and Quinshawn was not that bad as a receiver, as people,
made him out to be.
Speed score wise, 116.9 for Hall, 104.9 for Henderson. So he actually tested better. And the burst score for Hall, 131 to 129.5. So similar burst and agility. And then you just look at the NFL. I mean, pretty similar stats, actually. True yards per carry. Henderson actually was better this year, 4.3 to Hall's 4.1. Yards created per touch, both of them had 2.6, so very similar. And fantasy points per game, 12.9 for Breece Hall and 12.1 for Trevion Henderson. Henderson in a offense that was much better. Breece Hall in an offense that was much worse, but he had more volume. To me, I'm taking Breece Hall. I love Trevion Henderson. If you're telling me I can tear off of Trevion Henderson for Breece Hall and I can get a late first, which is, I think, extremely possible with the sentiment out there on Trevion Henderson, how much people like him, and also with the fact that Breece Hall, there's uncertainty and you can lean into that. Like you said, it creates very nice buying value and opportunities. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next player here, and it's Parker Washington. Parker Washington is going to be a very interesting player this offseason. I am super excited. Between the Jaguars wide receiver room and the Bears wide receiver room, it's almost back to back. The Bears wide receiver room has been extremely divisive conversation for now. This is going to be the third year in a row. When Adunze got there with Keenan Allen, with DJ Moore, it was a headache. Then last year, Luther Burden, Loveland, now we're going into next year, so it's very similar, very different, similar shades to the Bears as we see with the Jaguars this season. And Parker Washington traded 208 times. This is the 8th most traded player in the last 7 days, 5th among wide receivers. He's wide receiver 44 in startup ADP right now, pick 127 off the board, Chev. This is a guy in Parker Washington. I think that we really saw a true connection with Parker Washington and, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I am a little concerned. I like BTJ, but I am a little concerned with how Liam Cohen's offense works, Chev, where it really is ran through the slot a lot. And they tried BTJ to get him working in the middle of the field, sometimes even in that big slot role, and he just couldn't do it. And then he kind of became that sacrificial X. And Parker Washington really stepped in and shined. I mean, I don't see why they don't. And then you have the Travis Hunter thing. And what is his role going to look like next year? And spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about it all offseason, but I don't think he's going to be a main wide receiver. And that was my concern drafting him last year. I mean, and I don't want to make this a Travis Hunter thing, but it's important to this conversation. Parker Washington's 23 years old. This guy isn't a slouch. I mean, yeah, he was a 6th-round pick, Chev. I mean, it's not like he was amazing coming out of college and he was just held down by great talent in front of him. I mean, he worked for it, but he's worked for his opportunity and it showed this year. So Parker Washington, before we get into the players that are behind him being drafted ahead of him, what are your thoughts on him? Is this a fluke? Is he going to be involved next year? Are people setting themselves up for disappointment? What are we thinking here?
I'm ready to hurt again. If I'm going to be wrong, if Lovin Parker Washington is wrong, I don't want to be right. Like like I don't think you can put the toothpaste back in the tube is what I'm trying to tell you. With Parker Washington, so week 16 to 18, roughly 18 points a game, the wide receiver 3. In that same span, only one wide receiver generated more plays of 20 plus, more receptions of 20 plus yards than he did. There's clearly a connection between and that's really important because Trevor Lawrence is a $250 million quarterback in an elite offense. They're going to continue to upgrade the offensive line. We know that Liam Cohen has the Konami code to offensive line play in the fact that he boosted the Bucks and now he's boosted the Jaguars in back-to-back years. Pardon me. So, and we know how valuable that slot role is. I mean, Chris Godwin was basically the wide receiver 1 before he snapped his ankle in half. Prior to week 7 in that Ravens game last year. So I don't think that there's any way that Liam Cohen will go back to this season and look at the tape and see a guy who we were going to build it around Brian Thomas Jr. for various reasons that didn't work out that way. And Parker Washington was the guy that they stepped up. You have a professional in Jacoby Myers that'll allow for you to move him around the formation. He's going to be a situational mismatch, but this is the real mismatch. So Parker Washington has the start-stop shiftiness to create after the catch. Like you can just throw him smokes or bubbles or whatever. And he's good enough. I don't know. I sent you the thing where I tweeted, like, he reminds me of the way he stems his routes and sets his routes up. It's not quite as smooth as Stevie Johnson, but it's pretty damn smooth. And he gets them off against everybody. So I don't think the toothpaste can go back in the tube. I think Parker Washington has been so good that Travis Hunter can just focus on the defensive side of the ball, learning all the calls, getting comfortable in coverage. Because, I mean, I do think he's a generational talent at corner, and he should play offense sparingly. That was my whole point initially. It was like, hey, he can do both, but he's going to have to primarily do defense. And Parker Washington just afforded the Jaguars with insurance to be able to let him develop as a defender and then come in and play and be a matchup nightmare, or have the gadget plays or package plays where he can create explosives. So to answer the question, I think Parker Washington is going to be good. I would be in the business of trying to sell a late second for him to try to get him on my roster because I don't think this is going anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, look at the slot snaps. I mean, 23rd in the NFL, and the slot role is the premium role in this offense. You talked about Chris Godwin.
Yes.
Talked about the power slot in general. And it's become this new thing, right? I mean, the offenses love. Usually the power slots, typically a little bit of bigger players, right? Like that Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald kind of started working into that power slot role before it started really becoming a thing. But with Parker Washington, man, like you said, like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And, people will sit there and say the Jaguars spent all this capital on Travis Hunter. How could they possibly, go and not have him play offense? Things change quickly, man. This is the NFL. Like plans change quick. Things change quick. Like they did not know that Parker Washington was going to be a guy. That is finding money in your pocket. They didn't draft Travis Hunter expecting to have Jacoby Myers on this team. And newsflash, he just signed an extension. And I get it. People think that Brian Thomas Jr. is getting traded. And I don't buy it for a second. I don't, man. Like, he was amazing his rookie season. I get the staff didn't draft him. I get it. They didn't draft Brian Thomas Jr. But to me, it's like you don't sell a first-round wide receiver in year 3 on a rookie contract who had an amazing rookie season as a breakout. You don't sell him after one down year. And we talked about the Kyron Lacy thing, a couple episodes back. I think that had a factor on Brian Thomas Jr. early on in the season. They were college teammates. They were very close friends. That was a tough situation this offseason, and I think it truly played a factor. These guys are human beings, and Brian Thomas Jr.'s focus was not there. It's okay to say that, right? So Parker Washington, I think he's in. I think Travis Hunter, even coming off the injury, I think they're going to sit there and say, like, we don't want to push this guy to play all these extra snaps when after one season he already got hurt and they weren't even doing it yet to begin with, really. So Parker Washington's being right now drafted in startup ADP behind DJ Moore, Quentin Johnston, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Matthew Golden. Now he's being drafted ahead of Jacoby Myers, his now new running mate, Khalil Shakir, and Jaden Reed. To me, I love Khalil Shakir. That role in that offense with Josh Allen, it's not as important. It's not great for fantasy. I'd much rather take Parker Washington. Rather Parker over Jaden Reed, rather him over Myers. Matthew Golden is an interesting guy right now, Chev. I mean, he's being drafted behind Golden. I would be totally comfortable re-rolling the dice. And if you can get Parker Washington and a 2 for Matthew Golden, a high 2, I would take it. I was not the biggest believer of Matthew Golden. It was nice to see him kind of pop off in the last game of the season. Wan'Dale Robinson, I'll take Wan'Dale over Parker. I just have a feeling that Wan'Dale, he's kind of popped and he's been consistent year over year now. Quentin Johnson, I'll take Parker plus the picks that you can get. I would probably take Parker. I don't know, with McDaniels. I feel like they're going to bring even more possibly competition in there, but Johnson's kind of iffy. I would probably still prefer Parker if you can get picks added on. And then DJ Moore is interesting. I mean, if you're in a competing window, I'm taking DJ Moore over Parker Washington. I think the fade on him is become a little much. What are your thoughts out of those guys? Is there any, are you buying him, selling him over any of the guys ahead of him? And are you selling him for any of the guys behind him?
Well, okay. So let's go player by player. DJ Moore, I would take Parker Washington.
Okay.
Quentin Johnston, I would take Parker Washington. Wan'Dale's where it gets interesting to me because he is a free agent. And I mean, he did put up first 1,000-yard season. He was actually running routes down the field. He showed you that he's more than just like throw the ball to me at the line of scrimmage. I mean, he was the first receiver ever to have 90 receptions and less than 700 yards, in a season. But then he rectified that this year. I think he went 92 for 1,014, and he put some really good stuff on tape. So that's where I kind of have a sticking point. And Wan'Dale Robinson's still very young, going to go into a contract year, probably get like a Darnell Mooney-esque deal, like 3 for 39 from somewhere to be the 2 and be a really reliable.
I think he gets more, man. I
think so.
I think he might get close to a Christian Kirk deal, man. I think he might get 18.
Well, 18 okay, they're still very similar. It's just that Christian Kirk's deal happened when the cap was a little bit lower, so it's like
I think the cap's going to go up a decent amount.
It is.
I'm telling you, I think he's going to be somewhere around 18ish.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm cool with that. He earned it. He deserves it. Yeah. He's a talented player. I think I would go Wan'Dale there, and then I'm going Parker over Jacoby Myers, over Khalil Shakir, and over Jaden Reed. What I saw with my eyes was a guy who could create his own yardage. Yep. Like they didn't have to do anything special. It's just get the ball into his hands and he's going to do the rest. And I think there's more, like confidence is the most important thing for these guys. And now that he's like, oh, like I have the trust of my quarterback. I have the offensive coordinator. I mean, now losing Udinski could suck and they might be,
I don't think he's going to get hired anywhere unless he takes the Browns job.
Okay. All right.
So how many jobs are open now? I mean, Steelers,
Browns,
Ravens. I think Minter's a lock for the Ravens.
Okay.
Why would you want to go to the Cardinals? I feel like you'd just rather sit out a year, man. And
I think he should too. I agree. I'm with you. We're locked in as far as that goes.
Yeah.
I just,
I mean, shit, unless the Bills job opens up and they'll take a swing on him, then you got the quarterback, at least you got some pieces on offense. You got an insane GM and an egotistical ownership, but
God, bro. How weird was that today?
It's fucking terrible.
God.
Oh, you want to talk about like making a destination not attractive? Like, I don't know. That went from like, holy shit, dude. It's similar. Like, look, you got Lamar, you got Josh Allen, like 2 awesome landing spots for a coach. I mean, you don't got to be saddled up with like some lame duck quarterback. And then you have two distinct changes. The owner from the Ravens was like, yeah, I told Lamar if he wants to, he can hop in my jet and he can come for the interviews for coaches. And today they said, yeah, for the Bills, yeah, we didn't even consult Josh when we fired
McDermott. Yeah.
McDermott. I'm like, the frick is this?
Yeah, dude.
And then the Keon Coleman stuff. I mean, it's all fucked up, man. That's bad.
I didn't appreciate that more than anything, because it's just like there's no reason that, like, the internet's written in pen, so you can go back to like the draft night and what they were saying in the draft room. Yeah. It's like, oh, so at what point were you forced? Like, was the Keon in the room with you that made you draft him? Like, what are we doing? So yeah, all that to say, I do believe that this is going to be a sort of, ascension for Parker Washington. And I think that he's one of the most undervalued assets that you can get. And it's not going to cost you. Well, I talked about this with Casey. I don't want to make moves right now that are going to alter the core, the fabric of a dynasty team. I want to make microtransactions that could turn into big wins and minimal losses. And that to me is perfectly encapsulated with a guy like Parker Washington.
Yeah, like we said, you lean into some uncertainty, but nothing that's going to be massive moves. We'll move off Parker Washington, but this is a good question. Parker Washington over Michael Wilson. No. It's a little tricky there. I love the talent of Michael Wilson more. I think the upside is much higher. You just may need to wait an extra year for him to repeat what we saw, because there's some question marks there with the coaching staff, who's going to be the quarterback. At least Parker's in an offense that's the glue is there and it ain't going anywhere. With Wilson, it's a little sketchier, but I'd still prefer Michael Wilson over Parker.
Yeah, it's bag season for Michael Wilson too. So you're getting contract year Michael Wilson, and I don't think that the coaches, whoever, have they finalized anything with anyone?
No, I think it's gonna be Vance. I think it's gonna be Vance.
Vance Joseph.
I don't even know if I love, but the good news is Vance might bring somebody over from Sean's staff, which could be a good thing. But so maybe they can bring that offense a little bit. But you never know. But it would be a second go around, so you hope he learned something.
Right. I mean, they did him really dirty.
Yeah.
And so I'd have a hard time seeing that. But I mean, hopefully you guys run it back. I mean, yeah, if you guys don't know, Pete's a Broncos fan. Hopefully you can run it back with Vance Joseph again, instead of sending him to the upside down to be a forever coordinator.
Well, honestly, this sounds crazy, but Jim Leonard, I would love for them to promote him. I know there's talks about him going to New York. Yeah. And honestly, it's fucked up, but the new rules of, minority coaches, you get 2 second-round, third-round picks. Like, that's valuable, man. And I believe in Jim Leonard. I like him a lot. I thought he could have been a head coach in college. That's part of why he came to the NFL. So I would be totally okay with that. And I love Vance. I also just want to see him get another opportunity, man.
I just would prefer for the opportunity to actually be like a winnable situation, dude. Like, that's a coaching gauntlet over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great. I don't think it's the best roster.
No, it's a terrible roster. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing about it that, like, you're signing up to potentially go 5-11 in a division where you're gonna get your shit beat. Like, you're gonna get the shit beat out of you by the Seahawks, by the Rams, and the 49ers.
Well, and you also got to figure out the quarterback, right?
And you have to figure. That's what I'm saying. That's what makes it so unappealing. Is like you have 3 legitimate playoff teams, 2 of which are playing for the right to go to the Super Bowl. Like, no, I'm not going to sign up for that. But
I think respectfully, it's the second worst option. I think the Browns are the absolute worst. I would not want to go there. I mean, it's a disaster there. I don't want to go to the Browns. They just their O-line's deteriorating. It's old. The quarterback situation, it's going to be a competition between Watson and Shador, which is just going to be a media circus in and of itself. And we talked about Shador. I mean, I think a lot of it's not even self-inflicted at this point. Maybe he brought a lot of attention in college, but he hasn't done a lot to warrant, why the crazy questions he gets for like a third string quarterback, in season. But it's just a mess there. I mean, I don't know why anybody would want that job.
Right.
It's bad, man. Let's go on. We got 2 more, and then you got to get out of here. So let's try to get to these next 2, and then get you out of here on time. And if anything, you can pop off, and I'll wrap up here. But next guy we're going to talk about here, we already talked about a teammate of his, but it's Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's been traded 205 times. It's 9th most over the last 7 days, and 6th most among wide receivers. He's wide receiver 13. He's pick 40 right now in startup ADP, and he's behind guys like your guy, George Pickens, Rashee Rice, Nico, and Teddarell McMillan. Before I give you the guys that he's behind, let's talk about Garrett Wilson for a second. There is insulation there. He did sign an extension. I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, you'd probably rather zero insulation there, honestly, so that he could get out of there. But I don't think he's going there anywhere anytime soon unless there's a trade. And again, we talked about this coaching staff, and you're going to trade a 25-year-old wide receiver when you don't have much anyway, and he's kind of a lame duck coach right now who's probably getting fired next year. I got to be honest, dude. I like Darren Glenn. I like the hire, but I don't see him lasting after this year, especially with this roster, unless they do insane things in free agency and have a killer draft. I just don't see it. So Garrett Wilson, though, 25 years old. This is a guy that was a 10th overall pick in 2022, 6 foot, 184. Explosive player. Honestly, he's probably one of the more talented wide receivers. He feels like the if man at wide receiver. We're talking about Justin Herbert being if man, right? Yeah. If he could be this, if he could have that, if he could, like, it's all these ifs for Garrett Wilson, like Justin Herbert. The talent is there, man. I mean, we've seen 3 years in a row before this year, which he got hurt, 147, 168, 153. He's a target monster, right? I mean, he had 3 back-to-back seasons with 1,000 yards. He didn't hit the ceiling, though, for fantasy because he didn't score a lot of touchdowns his first 2 years, right? Only 30th in points per game his rookie season, 32nd in points per game his sophomore year, and then 18th when he scored 7 touchdowns in 2024. But I don't know, man. Are we going to get it for Garrett Wilson? I don't know if we get an upgrade. What are your thoughts on him? Is he a player in your mind that is worth being, the 13th wide receiver in Dynasty startup ADP? I mean, that's a little bit of a drop off from what we saw about a year ago, where he was kind of in that like 6 to maybe like 7 to 10 range is where Wilson was. He's now 13.
Okay. So the if man thing is absolutely hilarious because it's a level of accurate that is completely disturbing. Like he has all the skills, and it, like, when you see it pop off, you're like, yes, that's exactly what it was. We were in this position with George Pickens up until he got into a better situation
and Chris Olave.
So don't fade the talent. Like, if you're in a place where you can have Garrett Wilson be, you can have Garrett Wilson be your wide receiver, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, where like the spike weeks just give you a pop to your lineup. Yes, he does not need to be your wide receiver 1 just because the situation is so. We have to factor in situation, when we're looking at our lineups for, value added, wins over replacement, whatever you want to call it. You've got to look at it from Garrett Wilson basically being like a time suck. What'd you say?
I said a little baseball reference there.
Yeah, like it's the talent is so good that you should never give up. But also, if somebody's willing to bet on it, then you sell. You get out of this business. You get into somebody safer, like an Olave, like a Lad. I could even tear down. I could be talked into tearing down into Ibuka, and that wouldn't be a tear down. Like, there was a point where Ibuka had jumped into that elite wide receiver range. Now the guy's going ahead of him. Rashee Rice has got his deal going on. Like, Nico put together another solid year, but he's 26 going on. He'll be 27 next year, or 26 next year.
I love Nico. I think I'd have Wilson ahead of him. The injuries just that
Yes.
the health stuff is just it's a little concerning.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And so but he finally has the quarterback and you saw him break out, but we can't project that for Garrett Wilson anymore. Like this will be, this is year 5. Like this is gonna be year 5.
And he hasn't had a top 15 points per game season.
Correct.
And it's going to year 5. And this is a guy that's been in the top 10 for dynasty wide receiver rankings since he got into the league, and he's never had a top 15 points per game season. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, but everybody, it's one of those cool, it's one of those cool like psyops where we can all see that this dude is really good.
Sure.
But like, how much mental anguish are you going to put yourself through during the football season when Garrett Wilson's on your roster and he's 4 catches for 42 yards and no touchdown?
Yeah.
And those 4 catches will probably be really cool, but like you'll have 11 targets and he's just not going to be able to get like accurate targets to be able to actually make some fantasy point production come to fruition. Dude's a special talent. I've said that now like 5 times. He's one of the best receivers in the league, but it's the exact same thing as Jalen Waddle. No, because I don't think Jalen Waddle's good, and I will die on that hill.
I think Waddle's a little overrated. He got peppered with volume, and he was in a great situation.
He got peppered with volume, and then he got peppered with volume for the 104 catch season. That was the record, and then he had insane efficiency that one year. And people have been losing their minds over him doing that again, and it's never fucking happened since.
Yeah,
like we got to stop.
Stay healthy, and he
can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and now he doesn't have Mike McDonald, so that even makes it worse.
Sorry to be long winded about that, but yes, right. that's where I'm at as far as Garrett Wilson goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say I'm at the point where I would prefer Garrett over Nico, and that really hurts to say. And Nico's got some. I mean, Nico has, unlike Garrett, he has had a top season like that. So it's tough to say that on a points per game basis. But I just think the injury history with Nico and the age getting up there already, and he plays on an offense that they just brought in a ton of young talent. Like I expect those guys to be more involved as they progress in their careers. I would also say I would prefer Olave, Egbuka, and Ladd. I would tear down to all of those guys over Garrett Wilson. I would be totally fine with that. Reroll the dice on youth. And Olave is a great example for Garrett Wilson, though. I mean, this is a player that nobody wanted this year, and he absolutely put together an awesome season. And now he's looked at again as a player that people are going to love to draft next year. Now it's 8:25. I think you got to go. We got one more player to go over. Did you have time or you want to go? It doesn't matter. It's up to you. I can finish the show.
I'll say this about Kyle Monangai. Eric Bieniemy going to the Chiefs is going to that's going to hurt that backfield more than people are giving it credit for. Hopefully they'll do something like go try to get Anthony Lynn or another like Skip Pete or one of those a good proven running back coach, because he was like the offensive line and the upgrades to the offensive line and Eric Bieniemy were a lethal combination for that run game. And with that, I got to dip. I appreciate you as always, brother. And we will talk soon. I'm sure I'll talk to you later on tonight. So it's fine.
Yeah. All good, bro. Thanks for dropping in.
Thank you, bro.
All right, man. All right, folks, we got one more. We're going to talk about Kyle Monangai. I'm going to get to Biggie's question here. And if anybody else has any other questions, I'd be happy to answer before I wrap up today's show. Thank you guys so much. If you are here, please, before you leave, give me a thumbs up. It really, really helps me out. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button already. If you have not, make sure you do so. We have tons of great content here. Even if you like data analytics, the Player Profiler website is free. You can go there. There's so much information from a fantasy aspect. But Biggie came in here and said, would you trade Jordan Love, Matthew Golden, the 112, and the 2027 first that's projected between a 110 and a 112 for Joe Burrow, Dalton Schultz, a 212, a 2027 second? Okay, that's a lot to unpack there. Of course, Burrow, I mean, he's about 2 tiers up from Love. I don't think Love is that far off. I think Love is not that far off in a sense of he is far off, but there's so much value in the quarterback position now. I mean, there's so many good players. Burrow, though, gives you that extra bump up. Now, when we're talking about the difference here, Matthew Golden, I made my case about him. I'm not super high on him anymore. I wasn't high on him to begin with. You're also giving up a 110. It's fine. You're getting Burrow, Dalton Schultz, 212, 2027 second. Yeah, I honestly, I'm fine with this. I mean, really, I look at it as you're really moving Burrow, you're moving Love, a Golden, and a late first. Oh, wait, I didn't read that right. And a 2020. So you're moving 2 firsts, Love, and Matthew Golden for Burrow, Schultz. It's too much for me. If you could cut down the picks here, I'd be a little bit more comfortable with it. I'm not a big fan of Matthew Golden, but in reality, Matthew Golden's value should probably still be like early second this year. So you figure it's really like an early second, the 110 plus Jordan Love plus and the 112. It's just too, if you can cut down a first there, if you weren't giving up 2027 first in addition to all of that, I'd say, yeah, I think you're a first too much here. That would be my vibe. I think you're giving up a little too much there. If you can cut one of those first down, I would feel a little bit more comfortable. I think Love is a solid quarterback. He's got a lot of weapons around him. He's in a good system. And I'm not saying Love is the guy I'm in love with, but Burrow's had issues staying healthy, and that's a lot of high draft capital to give up to tier up to a couple extra points per game, and just a decent amount of risk there. I would hold. I would hold there. Thank you for dropping that question. And if anybody else has anything, you can feel free to pop in and say anything. But again, I will say this one more time, and then we're gonna get to Kyle Monangai. Please hit that like button if you have not already. It helps me out tremendously. So Kyle Monangai, he's been traded 202 times. It's the 10th most traded player in the last 7 days in Dynasty Fantasy Football. He's third among running backs right now to be traded at the moment. He's RB 25. I thought that was pretty high. ADP right now, pick 108 off the board. And look, Kyle Monangai, shout out Rutgers University in New Jersey. I'm a Jersey guy. I live in Pennsylvania now, but I am from Jersey. So I love seeing guys out of Rutgers make an impact. And I had Kyle Monangai as a guy I loved drafting last year. And kind of similar to the Woody Marks thing, except he's been much better. And you could make the case I'd rather Kyle Monangai over Woody Marks. But same thing, right? 7th round pick. He's 23 years old, so he's younger than Woody Marks. I mean, he's a year and a half younger. 7th round pick, not a lot of draft capital there, but Ben Johnson likes him. The problem with Kyle Monangai is the receiving game is not there. I don't think it's going to just appear. And that concerns me because when we look at Kyle Monangai, let's take a look at his profile really quick. This year, 169 attempts, 782 yards. He had 18 receptions. I mean, he pretty much had 1 reception a game. The receiving yards are actually pretty good. I mean, good on him. I think a lot of that has to do with, there's so much to worry about that. There's probably a lot of spacing because of all the attention to the wide receivers and even the tight ends that, he was able to find himself in a good spot there. But when he took at the targets, 30 targets is actually better than I expected. The red zone touches are nice, but I mean, still only 21st in the NFL. They're losing Bieniemy, which Chev talked about. I think that's a concern for me, losing him. And when we look at the game log, right, he obviously had the Cincinnati game, which was awesome. But even in these games here, right, where he's getting a decent amount of touches, and I expect it to be a split. I don't think he's going to be the lead guy unless Swift or whoever else they bring in, if Swift ends up leaving at some point. I don't think he's going to be the guy unless there's an injury and they need him to do what he did against Cincinnati. But in these games where he's splitting time here, where he's getting 9, 11, all these rushes, he's not catching a lot of passes. Now, he did catch a decent amount here, 3 and 3, and he made stuff happen with it. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a guy that's not catching the ball a lot. He's splitting time, so he's in a timeshare. He's really a goal line player. And when you look at a guy like, say, Rachaad White, he's splitting time with Bucky, but he's going somewhere else as well, and he's a buy for me. But when we look at Rachaad White, I mean, he's a guy that can catch the football, he can block, and he's a goal line back. Kyle Monangai is a guy that you really got to hope he's hyper efficient on the ground and gets the goal line work, or you're not really going to get much because he doesn't catch passes much, and he's in a timeshare, right? So timeshare guy, not heavy draft capital, not a very twitchy, explosive player. He's more of a downhill runner. Heck, half the time he could have tried to make a guy miss, and he just runs through him in open field. But not hating on Monangai. I really like Monangai as a prospect. I like him as a player. I was rooting for him. I was really happy to see his story and see him have a successful season. But to me, I mean, it's a guy that ran a 4.6 40, which again, I don't put too much stock in 40-yard dash, but he's not extremely fast. I mean, we can gather that. So he's not going to hit the home runs. He's not catching a lot of passes. So you're really hoping for touchdown equity and his touches to increase. But if Swift is there, which he's under contract, it's going to be there next year unless they cut him, which I don't see that happening. I'm not in love with Monangai at that price. I mean, it's a pretty high price to pay, for Kyle Monangai. Guys that he's ahead of right now, Trey Benson, which, I mean, I'm not really in love with Benson. I'd rather Monangai. Woody Marks, I'd rather Monangai. Jaylen Warren is interesting. I'd rather Jaylen Warren, honestly. Chuba Hubbard, I'd rather Chuba Hubbard. Bhayshul Tuten and Blake Corum, I would rather Tuten and Corum. I look at those guys as they're handcuffs as well, but they are in much, much higher leverage, higher scoring potential handcuff roles, as well as if the starter goes down, those are really, really juicy roles to be in if they get thrusted into the RB1 spot. So he's behind Swift. Actually, Swift's at 24. He's behind Zach Charbonnet, which that's going to change, unfortunately, with the torn ACL. Derrick Henry, he's behind. I mean, I'd still take Henry. And Javonte Williams. I'd rather Javonte Williams as well. But that's really it. I like Kyle Monangai. He's a sell for me at 25, though. I think that's pretty expensive. And that's it. We talked about a lot of guys, talked a lot of players. Woody Marks, Breece Hall, Parker Washington, Garrett Wilson, Kyle Monangai. We talked a little Travis Hunter. We got a lot of good discussion today. I really do appreciate everybody that came out for tonight's show. Again, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. And if you want, you can help me out even more. If you're still here and you're feeling generous, when this video closes out, go to the video and just comment and just say something nice under it. It helps the algorithm, helps us grow, helps me out tremendously. But I appreciate it. Enjoy your night, guys. And I do not have the outro set up yet. See you next time.